Coach Maggie, certified health and lifestyle coach. And I love reading about health and how we think, what we do, and how it affects our body. But I came across an article in Health Magazine that really just validated so many of the thoughts and beliefs I've had for a long time, but just it was just my opinion. But now there's studies that back that, and I think it really gives us more reason than ever to really begin to take control of our bodies, and that we do have a lot of control. We're not at the mercy of, it's just like the lottery. You might win, you might not. It is not that, but we definitely can make a difference in how we're going to live our lives. But I came across an article. This particular one is called Food for Thought, and it's talking about this whole new, almost a field where they're talking about nutritional psychiatry. Now, we all know what a psychiatrist is, and we think of a man or a woman well dressed, sitting in a nice leather chair while they listen to someone that's laying on a sofa who's telling them all their life's problems. And while that may be a picture of it, there's a lot more. But there's a growing number of psychiatrists and people in the mental health field that are realizing that we need to be thinking about the lifestyle, the diet of the people they're seeing. And in this article, this one female psychiatrist says that she goes through the typical questions of wanting to know what brought them into the office, what's happening in the family, their stress level. Talk about those key elements, but she also follows it up with, tell me about a typical day. What types of foods are you eating? And I'm sure that catches her clients off guard, but she is seeing the connection between those things and their behavior. There's no doubt there is some parallels. And so she is saying that so many people are eating the traditional standard American diet, often called the SAD diet, and it's often very high in carbs, refined carbs, and greasy foods, and sweet, sugary things, an abundance of sodium in our products. And so people are coming in with all of these issues, and a lot of times it's made worse by diet. And so the problem is these foods that I'm talking about, the processed foods, they tend to produce a lot of inflammation in the body. And we think of inflammation as the enemy, but it's really not. It's chronic inflammation. 3 years ago, I had a bicycle accident, flew over my handlebars, and landed myself in the ER. There was a lot of inflammation around these fingers. It was doing its job. But when it is chronic inflammation that is so prevalent in our society today, that's a whole different, ball of wax. And so when we have all of this inflammation, it causes all kinds of problems, particularly on the brain. Okay? And it keeps us from firing things going where they want to go. It affects the cells in the brain. So it makes such a difference. It causes the wires to get haywire. And that's why so often we're like, oh, I can't think of that. We can't bring that number to our mind. We can't think of that name. And we joke and we say, oh my goodness, it's dementia. But the problem is it's affecting our brain. And I believe, and they seem to also agree, that's why we're seeing so much more of the rise in people younger and younger struggling with dementia, Alzheimer's, and so many of these types of issues. Foggy brain, we hear a lot about that. So again, they're seeing the real correlation between what their patients are eating and the effects that they're having. One of the things is they said that it isn't necessarily the total answer. However, many of the doctors that were quoted in the articles were saying they find that they can often, With an improved diet and lifestyle, getting outside, being more active, they can often take them off medications or at least lower the dosage, because so often those same medications that, yes, might help that person that's schizophrenic or bipolar, it maybe help them, maintain some sense of being normal, but they often come with a heavy price tag of side effects. And many times, one of the big side effects is often weight gain. So it becomes a vicious cycle. When you can't get rid of this weight, you think it's impossible. So why not just eat whatever I want to? So again, I will be writing a full post. I don't want to be on too long, but it was so interesting, the things that they were talking about as we are eating these, highly processed diets. They did mention some things that they are recommending to their clients. For example, one of the main things is they're recommending that they eat more leafy greens. Now, people often don't want to hear that, and they're like, how much kale can I eat? But again, incorporating many of these things will make a difference. So your leafy greens have taking in more omega-3 fatty acids that are good, healthy fats. So that comes from things like walnuts and other types of nuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, wild-caught salmon, different other types of fish. So these are ways to get those good fats into the body, because let's face it, our brain, that term fathead, well, it's actually true, because our brain is made up of mainly fat, a lot of fat, but we need the right type. And unfortunately, Americans in particular are eating all of the wrong fats, the processed fats. They say you walk down the aisle and you see all the bottles of the yellowy clear oils, canola oil, vegetable oil. Those are the wrong ones, okay? So again, diets that are rich in the colorful fruits and vegetables. And I love this time of year as we're getting into those things. I just bought pepper plants the other day in a 6-pack. Well, it's actually too cool to put them out, but I'm getting ready and anxious for that. But as we get into eating those things, we're getting those nutrients that stimulate the brain. It's what the brain is craving. It's what our body is craving. We just have to reteach our body. A lot of people, when they see or think about healthy fruits and vegetables, they just want to turn their noses up. But let's face it, we have to retrain our body. I like what one doctor said. He said, a more resilient brain can start with your next meal. I love that. It isn't that you have to wait 5 years. You've got to eat kale every day for 5 years to see the effects. Not at all. It's as simple as the next steps. Now, I just want to briefly share, because often when people see me out, they think that I do everything right, and I do not. So we've been doing some work on our house, and where we have to shop to go to the big box stores and get things for the house, it's about 35 minutes away. And I had a full day of returns, buying replacements, calling my husband to say, is this what we're wanting? And I went to the health food store to pick up some great things, but I just happened to take a detour down the chip aisle, and I bought a bag of barbecue potato chips. Now, they were a healthy brand. That was my rationale. But on the way home, I ate half of that bag. Again, we need to know those things that are our triggers. And for me, normally I can walk right by. But normally, I often carry something with me. A lot of times it is nuts, because I enjoy nuts. And I often will put a jar with walnuts, and I love dried cranberries or raisins and almonds, and all those sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. And sometimes I'll even throw dark chocolate in there. And something like that is just that fuel that I need to keep plowing. But I hadn't done that. Didn't have my bottle of water. And so I made a bad choice. And that's the thing. When we're running on empty, because we're not keeping up with eating nutritional things, we're more likely to make a bad decision. And guess what? When we make a bad decision, it throws us into, why do I do that? And then it fuels the depression, it fuels the anxiety. We've got to put a stop to that. The good thing, though, that I have to say that I did, that I often have not, is that I got home, felt sick to my stomach. I rolled the bag up, I tucked him away into the cabinet so that my husband wouldn't see that I had done that. And several days later, found the bag. And I immediately took it and I threw it in the trash. Now, like I said, I haven't always done that. But because we make a poor choice, let's not make another one and another one and another one. And that's often what happens. When we realize I blew it, let's put a period at the end of that sentence and start a new sentence with, okay, but I'm not going to blow it again. And yes, every several months, I'll find myself falling into that hole, or maybe it's something else. But the more that we can recover from the poor choice, the stronger and the more resiliency that we find in ourselves to make the right choice next time. So I just want to encourage you. We all know people that are struggling with something that I've talked about. And again, often we think of mental illness as strictly the schizophrenia, the bipolar issues, eating disorders, these other things. But when I looked up mental illness, it includes depression, it includes anxiety. And we all at different points struggle with those things. And we don't have to be embarrassed, but what we need to do is we need to look for ways to work with that. What are things I can do to improve? One of the doctors went on to say they are seeing in this whole field of nutritional psychiatry that they feel that this is opening up ways to not only help treat people who already have mental illness, but prevent it from happening in the first place. And after all of my years of working in the elementary education and seeing kids more and more struggling with anxiety, struggling with bouts of depression, struggling with outrage and anger, that they're willing to knock over a desk, punch a wall, or worse, a person, we need to be doing something. So again, be looking for my post. Chances are this either affects you or someone you know and love. So I do hope that you will consider sharing this video. Let me know. We've been holding back. We've been hiding behind walls saying, not me, this doesn't affect me, far too long. And it affects more people than we realize. And at different points in our life, it affects all of us. I'm typically a very upbeat person, but every once in a while I find myself slipping. And then sometimes when we do get there, it's hard to get out. So this has just reminded me and given me all the more desire to get the word out about how important what we eat is and our lifestyle. So again, consider sharing this with someone. Be looking for my post that I will have out tomorrow. And again, be thinking about just how close finding freedom is. It can be as close as your next meal. So anyway, have an amazing week. Take care and God bless.